Welcome, everybody, to the Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is 2:20, and I wish to call this meeting to order. Can I please have a roll call?
Of course, Madam Chair. Commissioner Camila Bustamante.
Present.
Commissioner Justin Green.
I'm here.
Commissioner Hank Hughes.
Present.
Commissioner Anna Hamilton.
Here.
And Chair Anna Hansen.
Present.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, we will go to the Pledge of Allegiance, the State Pledge, and the moment of reflection. In that order, please, everyone stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the sea symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Welcome, Carrie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us take a moment to focus on the work ahead of us today, being ever mindful of our decisions, and in the best interest of our community, we take a moment of silence.
Thank you very much. And we'd like to take a moment of silence also. And Olivia, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Olivia Romo, and I'm the Constituent Services Liaison for the Santa Fe County Ethics Board. And I am sad to announce that we lost a member of Santa Fe County and one of our leaders, Ms. Carol Thompson, who was the chairperson of the Santa Fe County Ethics Board, recently passed away. She was our chairperson for 10 plus years, was also an HOA board leader in Rancho Viejo North, and served many years on the Buckaroo Ball for our communities here in Santa Fe. And so I would just like to take a moment of silence and recognize her years of commitment to Santa Fe County and to our constituents.
And condolences to her family. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. Next, we will move on to approval of the agenda. County Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The initial agenda for today's meeting was posted last Tuesday, February 21st at approximately 6:17 p.m. And the amended agenda was posted on Friday, February 24th at approximately 5:06 p.m. In terms of changes made to the amended agenda and a request to move things around today, they would be as follows. We did upload updated packet material for item 5A, appointments and reappointments, specifically for the Advisory Council on Food Policy. Miscellaneous item 6D, the caption as well as packet material were updated for that item. And in terms of changes that we would request today, we would respectfully ask that miscellaneous action item 6C be taken up as the first order of business after opening business. So in other words, that item, a resolution related to the county's raise grant, be considered immediately before approval of the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other changes or requests from commissioners? If not, what's the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Green?
Move to approve the agenda as amended by the county attorney.
County manager.
County manager, sorry.
Um, Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. A motion by Commissioner Green, a second by Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next we will go to G, years of service, retirement, and new hire recognition. County Manager's Office, Greg Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Did want to recognize several employees who are recognizing milestones with the county during the month of February. Pauline Esquivel with our corrections division is recognizing 10 years of service with the county. We have two individuals who are celebrating 15 years with the county. Rufino Romero in the Sheriff's Department and Deborah Leba in the Public Works Department. We also wanted to acknowledge on the other end of the spectrum some new hires and volunteers for the county that came online during the month of January. Kevin Hernandez and Evan Nunez were both hired as detention officers on January 14th. In the county, I'm going to skip over that. We have Arthur Anaya, who joined the county as a volunteer firefighter, and Tracy Carter as a secretary senior in the Sheriff's Department. So we want to welcome those new team members to the county. And finally, we want to recognize that several individuals retired from the county during the month of January. They were John Baca of the Public Works Department, Patrick Fick of the Sheriff's Department, and Gary Harone in our Public Works Department. So we wish our former colleagues all the best in their future endeavors. If we want to move on to item 1H, we have two employees from the County Attorney's Office that we wanted to recognize today. Francine Labato, who's a paralegal and the county's records custodian, and Estevan Sanchez, who is an assistant county attorney who, as one of his primary practice areas, works in the area of the inspection of Public Records Act, Public Records request. And this is a very high volume operation for the county that requires a lot of resources, both from the county attorney's office as well as all of the departments and elected offices that help respond to IPRA request. We're recognizing Francine and Estevan today because we just recently implemented a new online portal through which members of the public can submit their IPRA request. It's software that the board appropriated money for. Next Request is the name of it. It has a lot of attributes that will help us modernize our response to IPRA request, as well as become even more transparent. And in particular, a feature that I'm excited to see its impact on is the fact that you'll be able to search closed request. So in other words, you can go to the online portal and you'll be able to see what IPRA request other entities have made, as well as the responsive records. This has already streamlined our ability to provide information to the public. For example, there was a lot of interest in the application for a large commercial solar array off of Highway 14. We responded to the request once. All of the documents that were requested are available through the portal, and so when additional constituents asked for that information, they could simply be directed there so they could download the information. So it does have the ability, again, to increase our transparency by making available to the public prior IPRA requests, but also increase the efficiency with which we're able to respond to duplicative requests or even potentially avoid requests altogether. It took a lot of work on Estevan and Francine's part, both to work with the vendor to stand up the software, but then also to work with all of their counterparts in the departments and elected offices to train them on the software and how it works. So again, it's may seem like a relatively small matter to move forward in that direction, but as with most things that we do, it wouldn't have been possible without the board's leadership in appropriating the money, but also the hard work of county employees to make it so. So that's the two individuals we'd like to recognize today. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Schaefer. I have certificates of appreciation for both of you, and I'm hoping you will come forward and we will take a picture. And we are very honored that you have made this effort, because working with IPRA requests are extremely difficult. We all know that. We all know that it is a pain, so to speak, and anything we can do to make it easier is really a gift. And so these certificates of appreciation are just a small gift of recognition for your hard work. Okay, next we are going to go to miscellaneous item C, 6C, and we will have Growth Management Department, Brent Clavio, Public Works Department, Ivan Trujillo. Welcome, both of you, and thank you for your hard work on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, this resolution directs staff to prepare and submit 2 grant applications to the United States Department of Transportation in their Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Grant Program, or RAISE. Project number 1 is CR68A, the San Ysidro Crossing Grade Separation Project. That includes design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of a grade-separated crossing of CR68A at the Santa Fe River in Agua Fria. Project number 2 is CR84 Owingeh Road Corridor Grade Separations Project, which includes planning, design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of 5 grade-separated crossings along CR84 and 1 grade-separated crossing on CR84D, located in the Pueblo of San Ildefonso, Pueblo of Pohuaque, communities of El Rancho, Jacona, Jaconita, and authorizing the county manager to execute any necessary documents to submit the grant applications to the USDOT. Try to give you a little background about this grant project and these bridge projects. USDOT issued a competitive grant back at the end of November, part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And staff identified that the RAISE grant program aligns really well with the county's bridge program. And going back to 2022, Public Works and Planning worked with the New Mexico DOT to identify and categorize all the bridges in Santa Fe County. We looked at that and to determine their current condition and whether they were in need of rehabilitation, reconstruction, or replacement. And with that, we hired a consultant, Cobb Fenley, to assist with the task of this bridge inventory, and also to identify grant opportunities and to prepare grants. So when this grant opportunity came around, we really felt like it was a strong one that we could pursue. So as of now, all the bridges have been inspected and all the safety concerns have been evaluated. The county bridge program does seek funding, and again, this RAISE grant aligns well with that program. So as a result of the study, we found 2 projects that really need to be addressed rather urgently, and that is CR 68A, San Ysidro Crossing, and the numerous drainage crossings on CR 84, Owingay Road in Pewaukee Valley. CR 68A is county-maintained road, across the Santa Fe River at grade in the Agua Fria Village. During heavy storm events, the road is often closed to motorists and non-motorists because of the flooding. A grade-separated structure would allow for motorists and non-motorists to travel across the river year-round. CR 84, Owingay Road, is a county-maintained road. It includes, this project includes 84D, which is also county-maintained, and that stretches across the Pewaukee River. Many segments of this roadway also become impassable during heavy rains, as the arroyos are rushing with water and there's no grade separations. So staff and the consultants have reviewed the RAISE program, concluded that these were good matches, and we'll just tell you some of the merits. Safety, number 1, is a priority. These grade separation structures will address that. Environmental sustainability is also a factor, and putting these grade separation structures will help protect the riparian corridors of the Santa Fe River, Pewaukee River, and Suzuki River. Quality of life will be improved as people will have a better opportunity to walk and bike by providing bike lanes and pedestrian sidewalks on the deck, for example, in San Ysidro Crossing. Mobility will be enhanced because we're going to surmount the physical barrier of the rivers and give people an opportunity to cross, have access to transit. Economic opportunities will be improved because business and deliveries can have continuity during rain events. State of good repair will be improved by these new crossings, and partnership and collaboration has been achieved through the long-range planning of this project with the Santa Fe Metropolitan Planning Organization. Innovation is one other factor to these projects. We are proposing to put in a roundabout at the Agua Fria San Ysidro intersection. Roundabouts don't only relieve congestion, but they relieve time wasted and also emissions wasted. So again, RAISE grants are provided on a reimbursement basis, and this resolution will indicate to the USDOT that we're prepared to implement these projects and execute these projects. The total cost for the design, right-of-way, and construction of CR 68A San Ysidro grade separation is $9 million, and the planning, design, right-of-way, and construction of CR 84 Owingay Road is capped at $25 million through this ask. The grant is $25 million. Project's going to be a little bit over $25 million, but we're going to ask for the max for this phase of the project. These projects are also highly ranked in the county's FY 24 to 28 infrastructure capital improvement program. We anticipate that these projects will take between 2 to 4 years to complete. With that, staff recommends approval of this resolution, and I stand for any questions or Ivan.
And thank you, Brent, and thank you, Ivan. Are there any questions from the board? Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brett, and thank you, Ivan. This is great. 2 questions. First one, does this help with the construction of Yellowbird? Is this part of the completion does the link over the river, the Pojoaque River, help with that, or is this a separate project? I think most of it is a separate project, but maybe some of it has some overlap?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, you are correct. Those are independent projects, but the mobility between the El Rancho area from the south side of the Pojoaque River to the north is greatly enhanced by these projects specifically.
Great. And then if in the future, when these are being presented to us, is it possible to, not a full design, of course, but just a site plan? Put a dot on a map and show, like, here are the 5 arroyo crossings that'll be improved in the case of the Pojoaque project, or here's where the crossing is at San Ysidro. So when, you know, some people know exactly where these are, but some people don't, and a map is actually the easiest way to identify where these crossings would be.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, as part of the application, there are maps and there's conceptual engineering in terms of the spans and the amount of roadway that needs to be improved as well. So we would definitely share that with the Commission. In this case, is the applications were being prepared literally to the minute. The identification of the grant opportunity and its deadline came on us a little bit later than we had anticipated. But the team in general pulled together and were able to pull all that information, and it's available for anybody that's has the time or desire to review it.
Great. Well, great job with this. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions? I want to thank you both very much. I've been working with you both on this, and I think that these 2 projects definitely deserve the RAISE grant. We have chosen really strong projects. I was very happy to be in Washington, D.C. when we were requesting the letters from our delegation and were able to help move that forward. They have been very receptive to us and I believe helpful in this process. And so I want to recognize, Senator Heinrich, Senator Lujan, and Senator and Representative Ledger Fernandez's office for their work on getting this all together, and Lisa, who is the coordinator, who pulled this all together for us. We were able to have a conversation with her and just make sure that everything was moving along. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm really excited about us submitting this grant application. And so with that, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion to move to approve from Hamilton and Green, and a second from Commissioner Hughes. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Yay. So go forth.
Thank you.
And I will get a resolution number, I am sure.
Of course, Madam Chair. Item 6C is resolution number 2023-022.
Next, we'll move back up to the beginning of the agenda, and we will go to the approval of meeting minutes. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I'd like to approve the meeting minutes from January 31st as written.
I'll second, but I have a correction to make, so if I may.
I have a motion by Commissioner Bustamante, a second by Commissioner Green, and under discussion, you have changes to the minutes?
Yes, Madam Chair. So it's on the cover page. It announces this meeting as a special meeting, and it was a regular meeting of the County Commission. So everything else looked great, but you're welcome, no problem whatsoever. So if that is a friendly amendment to your, yep.
Thank you. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition, so the minutes have been approved. Okay, next we are going to go on to item 3, which is consideration of proclamations, commissioners' resolutions, and/or recognitions. For the new commissioners, this is a yearly proclamation that I have brought forward since I have been a commissioner. We do have two of my Tibetan friends in the audience, Jamyang and Lama, and I'm going to read the proclamation. It's a short into the record, and then I will ask them to come up, and if they wish to say a few words, or and we'll take a picture. So Santa Fe County proclaims March 10th, 2023 as Tibetan Freedom Day. Whereas Santa Fe County recognizes the rich cultural history and heritage of Tibet and of the Tibetan people, and the deep and richness that the local Tibetan community of Santa Fe adds to the county. And whereas March 10th, 2023 marks the anniversary of the Tibetan uprising when the country of Tibet was occupied by the People's Republic of China, resulting in more than half a century of occupation and exile, and the exodus of about 80,000 Tibetans across the Himalayas. And whereas Santa Fe County supports the conclusion of the United States Congress that under the established principles of international law, Tibet is an occupied country whose true representative is the exiled Tibetan government based in India, headed by Sikyong Pema Tsering, and whereas the Tibetan people acknowledge and honor His Holiness the Dalai Lama, recipient of numerous awards from many governments and institutions, including the Nobel Peace Prize, the United States Congressional Gold Medal, as a spiritual and temporal leader of Tibet. And Santa Fe County encourages the People's Republic of China to enter into discussions with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government to solve the question of Tibet based on the will of the Tibetan people and to ensure respect for the fundamental rights of the Tibetan people. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Fe County, do hereby proclaim that the 10th of March as Tibetan Freedom Day. Yay. I would like to ask the board if I could have a motion to support this proclamation. Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, I move that we adopt the proclamation for Tibetan Freedom Day.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Hughes and a second by Commissioner Green. Under discussion? Is there any comments?
Well, yes, Madam
go
Chair,
ahead.
just, very much appreciated that you make this recognition and bring this forward every year. I think it's a small but really valuable thing to do for something that's very important.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, yay. We'll take, go down and, Jamyang and Alama, would you like to please come forward? And would you like to say a few words, or? Jamyang is the president of the Tibetan Association. Oh, wait.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we still need support from all the people from United States, and really appreciate it for all those help. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we're going to take a picture. So we'll come around and. Thank you, everybody. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody would like to have removed, or what is the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Hamilton.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton, a second from Commissioner Hughes and Green on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we will, I want to recognize and I want to thank the Sheriff, Adon Mendoza, and Under Sheriff Ken Johnson for being here in the chambers. Thank you very much. It's great to see you both. And our Fire Chief, Jerome Black. Jacob. Excuse me. He's new, so I get one free pass. And it's good to see you all here, and thank you all of staff also for being here. Okay, let's go on to appointments and reappointments.
Madam Chair, may I offer a few resolution numbers?
Oh, I guess so.
Item 4A is resolution number 2023-023. Item 4B is resolution number 2023-024. And item C is resolution number 2023-025.
So, okay. No, okay. Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. And now we will go on to appointments. Welcome, Patricia Boyce. Nice to see you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm Patricia Boyes, the Health Services Division Director with Community Services Department. And I'm here this afternoon to request the approval of 2 county staff members and 3 private sector volunteers to serve on the Santa Fe City and County Advisory Council on Food Policy. We just call it the Food Policy Council. It does consist of people who are appointed by the city and by the county, both staff and volunteers. At present, due to staff departures, there are no appointed county members on the Food Policy Council, and typically the county staff members come from one from the Community Services Department and one from the Growth Management Department. Senior food issues, including nutrition and local procurement of food for senior meals, have been a recent focus of the Food Policy Council, and also on the growth management side, enhancing aggregate of Santa Fe County is one of the priorities. So for the county staff appointments, we recommend the appointments of Kika Ortiz and Nate Crail. Kika Ortiz is Senior Services Program Manager within the Community Services Department, and she has a long history of working on senior programs and food-related issues in northern New Mexico, and she herself is a local farmer. Nate Crail is a community planner within the Growth Management Department. He administers the aggregate of Santa Fe County and implements agricultural planning. He's also been a Peace Corps agroforestry volunteer. Then on the private sector side, we did advertise on the county website and through press releases, and the 3 people who applied all have served on the Food Policy Council and are now seeking reappointment. There is 1 vacancy remaining, but we deemed it preferable to move forward with these 3 now to ensure a quorum and the continued work of the Food Policy Council. And let me add that the Food Policy Council would like very much to do a presentation to this body in a couple of months about all the work that they've been doing. I know during pandemic it changed somewhat because there was so much focus on getting food out to the community, which we were all very much involved in, both on growth management and on community services. So in a couple of months, we'd like to do a full-blown presentation on the Food Policy Council's current work and recommendations.
Patricia, I think that it has been a long time since we have had a presentation, and I think that would be fantastic, especially since we have 2 new commissioners. So I'm sure this body would be happy to have a presentation from the food policy in the next couple of months sometime. So thank you. I think that's a wonderful suggestion.
Madam Chair, we will make sure to arrange for that. So the 3 private sector members are Sue Perry, Emidio Bayonne, and Tejinder Siano. And they've all been with the Food Policy Council for varying lengths of time. Sue Perry has a background in diabetes prevention, nutrition, and chronic disease. Emidio Bayonne is the Agriculture Resource Director for the Pueblo of Tesuque, and he operates their organic farm and has been very involved in teaching the community about conserving seed, harvesting crops on pesticide-free land, and the use and growth of medicinal plants. Tejinder Siano, as I believe most of you know, is the head of Reunity Resources, which is dedicated to regenerative and community farming, composting, and education. Suggestions be appointed by the Board of County Commissioner, and all of their information was part of the packet as well.
Commissioner Bustamante.
I'm just really grateful for the good work that you all do, Madam Chair, and acknowledging the way this group has stayed together over a number of years, and want to acknowledge just the quality of those individuals that you have recommended. If there's no discussion, I'd like to recommend acceptance. I'd like to move to approve the nominees for the Food Policy Council as submitted.
Okay, so I have a resolution from Commissioner Bustamante. Did I say that right? And a second by Commissioner Hamilton and Green. I think we all, under discussion, I think that we all recognize the value that everyone offers to the food policy and how important it is to Santa Fe County and everything that they do. So I think this is a great addition, and we look forward to you finding another one. Congratulations, Nate. I see you sitting in the audience. I see Pam Roy sitting out there. Thank you very much. Am I missing anybody else in the audience?
I don't think so.
If not, but I'm going to let Commissioner Hughes say a few words also.
Thank you. I wanted to echo Commissioner Bustamante's comment that where did you find such good qualified people? That's very good, great. And I also want to, even before you mentioned it, I was going to suggest that we have a presentation, because I don't really know enough about what the Food Policy Council does or what we should be doing if you're going to advise us to do stuff. So I look forward to the presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a moment right here. I want to know, Sheriff Mendoza, I know that you are taking time away from your office, and I'm very happy to see you here, and I'm wondering if you would like to address the commission in any way. I wanted to give you that opportunity.
Madam Chair, thank you, and Commission, appreciate it. And, good to be here in person. It's been a while, but I don't have anything specific today. We're here to answer any questions in reference to some additional budget that's requested during this fiscal year for a position that we're getting reclassified. But I know there may be some matters from the public that may come up, and I'm here to answer any questions. If I'll stick around for that portion of the meeting, but I don't have anything specific for the commission.
I would
right now.
appreciate that, because there are people who are very concerned in the village of Agua Fria, and I believe that they will be online making comments about the issue that we have happening there. So
Absolutely, I'll be here.
thank you very
Thank you.
much. I appreciate it. Next, we will go on to item B, request to utilize outside contractor for general construction service to.
You missed A.
Oh, that's because I was so excited to go to B. Okay, I'll go to A. Request authorization to publish title and general summary of ordinance number 2022, an ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 1999-10 and 2020-1, and section 7 of ordinance 2022-07, adding and amending definition and exemptions for lodger occupancy tax to align with state law, increasing the lodging tax occupancy tax, establish financial reporting responsibilities, adding lien provisions, adding further use of lodgers occupancy tax proceeds, and clarifying collection of lodgers occupancy tax for short-term rental platforms. County Attorney Jeff Young and Community.
Hey, Kenneth, this is Enrique Romero again. Not much. I'm giving you a quick call to see if you could help me with something. So I like Firefox, so I'm using Firefox.
We have a little a delay. So Paul Olson and Lisa Quintana. So between the three of you, welcome.
Madam Chair, Paul Olson with the Community Development Department, and I'd like to sit down so my leg gets a little rest. Okay, this is really dense, so I'll try and present it as best as I can, and Attorney Young knows it far better than I, so I will defer to him on one of the more of the challenging questions. So just in summary, the county is recommending repealing and replacing ordinance number 1999-10, which is also called the occupancy tax ordinance, and to make a number of updates. And this would include adding definition of the county treasurer, dwelling, short-term rental platforms, taxable premises, temporary lodging, tourist-related events, tourist-related facilities and attractions, and tourist-related transportation systems. So additionally, we would amend the proposed ordinance would amend the definition of taxable premises. It would transfer lodgers tax, occupancy tax collection responsibilities from the county clerk to the county treasurer. It adds the phrase, unless those premises are temporary lodging, to the vendee exemptions to the lodger's occupancy tax. Raises the current lodger's occupancy tax rate from 4% to 5% of gross rental or taxable rent, and requires short-term rental platforms to collect and pay lodgers' occupancy taxes and applicable gross receipts taxes. And it also requires short-term rental platforms to register and provide monthly reports on short-term rentals. Further, adds the uses of the lodger's occupancy tax proceeds, including for costs on prior redemption premiums and charges pertaining to certain revenue bonds, and to provide police and fire protection and sanitation service for tourist-related facilities, attractions, and events. The proposed ordinance also adds financial reporting relating to certain budgets, reports, and audits related to the expenditure of the lodger's occupancy tax funds. It clarifies that the BCC makes appointments to the advisory board, and lastly, it adds provisions relating to liens for the lodger's occupancy taxes. So that's the summary. The background on this is the occupancy tax, where lodger's tax was first passed in 1999. It has been amended twice by ordinance number 2020-1 and 2022-7. The state law on occupancy taxes, the Lodgers Tax Act, has also gone through multiple amendments, and most recently in 2020. And given the number of proposed changes in all these ordinances, we are recommending the repeal and replacement of the previous ordinance. So then some of the definitions, we would be adding the following definitions to bring the current or this proposed ordinance into alignment with the 2020 legislative amendments to New Mexico state law. Those terms would include temporary lodging, tourist-related events, tourist-related facilities and attractions, and tourist-related transportation systems. The ordinance would also provide the definition of taxable premises would be amended to be also consistent with state law. The definition of short-term rentals and short-term rental platforms would be added from the recent short-term rental ordinance number 2022-7. The definition of dwelling from the Sustainable Land Use Code, SLDC, would also be amended or added as the term is used in the definition of short-term rentals and short-term platforms. Additionally, the collection of the lodger's tax would be shifted from the county clerk's office to the county treasurer's office. And staff did meet with both those elected offices, and there was agreement that that would be a good idea. This ordinance would also provide exemptions. The Vendy exemption would be clarified to state that it does not apply to temporary lodging, to also be consistent with state law. Then the lodger's occupancy tax increase, it's been at 4% since 1999, and the state law does allow us to increase it to 5% if that's the board's decision, and some local governments who have it at 5% include City of Albuquerque, City of Santa Fe, City of Socorro, Rio Arriba County, Village of Ruidoso, Sandoval County, Taos County, Town of Taos, Taos Ski Valley, and Truth or Consequences. And the maximum allowable rate would be 5% per state law. Additionally, short-term rental platforms would be addressed, and I lost myself. Okay, the Board of County Commissioners adopted Ordinance 2022-7, and it amended Ordinance 1992-3, the Business Registration and Licensing Ordinance, and Ordinance 1999-10, which is the current lodger's occupancy tax ordinance, to allow it to license and regulate short-term rentals in Santa Fe County. This was passed in October of 2022. The changes proposed in this ordinance would address lodger's occupancy taxes collection by so-called short-term rental platforms by adding definitions of short-term rentals and short-term rental platforms to the ordinance language and setting forth a process for the county to collect lodgers' occupancy taxes for these platforms, or from these platforms. In preliminary conversations with two of the largest short-term rental platforms, VRBO and Airbnb, both recommended that the county adopt an ordinance to address tax collection at short-term rentals. There are approximately 150 short-term rental platforms in operation, and this ordinance would allow equal application to all short-term rental platforms. Additionally, under the proposed ordinance, short-term rental platforms would be required to collect and remit occupancy taxes on behalf of vendors using their platform. The ordinance would also require short-term rental platforms to disclose to the county on a monthly basis each of their short-term rental listings located in the county, the name of the person responsible for the listing, the address of each listing, the length of stay of each listing, the price for each stay. The short-term rental platforms must ask vendors using their platforms to identify whether their lodgings are located within the city or county of Santa Fe so that occupancy taxes can be directed to the correct jurisdictions. Next, we have the use of the tax proceeds. Currently, 50% of the lodger's occupancy tax proceeds from the first 3% and 100% of the proceeds from the next 1% is used for advertising, publicizing, or promotions of tourist-related facilities, attractions, and events. The remaining 50% from the first 3% is used for facilities. And should the lodger's tax occupancy ordinance be changed and increase the rate from 4% to 5%, staff would ask for direction from the board on how that extra 1% would be allocated or modify where other additional proceeds could be spent. This ordinance would add additional items for tax proceeds that could be used, such as prior redemption premiums and other charges pertaining to revenue bonds, and to provide police and fire protection and sanitation service for tourist-related facilities, attractions, and events located in the county. And then under financial reporting, state law requires that the governing body furnish to the advisory board that portion of any proposed budget report or audit filed or received by the governing body pursuant to either the local government finances statute or the Audit Act that relates to the expenditure of the lodger's occupancy tax funds within 10 days of the filing or receipt of such proposed budget report or audit by the local governing body. Further, state law requires that the governing body report to the local government division of the Department of Finance and Administration on a quarterly basis any expenditure of the lodger's occupancy tax funds pursuant to specific sections of state law, the governing body also must furnish a copy of this report to the advisory board when it is filed with the local government division. An advisory board section of this would be changed to reflect that the BCC appoints members to the advisory board, or the ordinance would propose that. And the ordinance would also propose, per state law, that requires that ordinances imposing lodger's occupancy tax have procedures for liens, distraint, and sales to satisfy such liens, which is outlined by the law. The proposed ordinance would include this information as well. And lastly, the effective date. The ordinance would take effect on June 1st, 2023. This will allow time for staff to send notifications to the hotels, motels, resorts, bed and breakfasts, RV parks, short-term rental platforms, etc., and for these vendors to change the lodger's tax collection in their booking system from 4% to 5%, and notify their accounting departments of this change, as well as where they would remit it. And staff is recommending publishing title and general summary of this ordinance and moving the process forward. With that, I would defer to Attorney Young if we missed anything, or if I missed anything or misstated anything.
Thank you, Paul. Madam Chair, Commissioners, there were a lot of things going on with this ordinance, obviously, and that's why it's a repeal and replacement. A lot of the discussions originated or surrounded the discussion of short-term rental platform collection and setting the record straight on that piece of it. But in doing so, there were a lot of things that staff recognized that needed to be improved with the ordinance. So we stand for questions, Madam Chair.
Questions from the board. I'll go to Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we need to do this, so I think it's a good idea and great that we're bringing this forward, and thanks to whoever put all the work in to put all these red words on the page. Do we need to make a decision today about that extra 1%, or at what point do we need to give you, you said we need to give you advice on, because I noticed the ordinance is written to raise the rate to 5%. Is there something we need to do to put in the ordinance where that extra 1% goes?
So Madam Chair, Commissioner Hughes, today we are only asking or requesting authorization to publish title and general summary. So after that's done, it would run in the paper for several weeks, and then we would have the hearing on this matter, a public hearing, including public comment regarding the proposed draft ordinance. So at that time, there would be further discussion and a decision made by the board, but we wanted to definitely preview that for the board as a potential decision point surrounding this ordinance, not only to increase the occupancy tax from 4% to 5%, but then also how to use those proceeds according to the statutory. There are some statutory allocations that are mentioned in the ordinance, but there is some flexibility there as well. So.
Okay, so you're envisioning us making the decision before we vote on the final version of the ordinance. Okay. I was just looking at this and I noticed that open space and trails looks eligible, and I would nominate that for some of the funding, because I know our open space program always needs some more money to make it as effective, and I'm sure that draws tourists here. So thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have at this moment.
And thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Hughes, for bringing up that point, both of those points. Those were great. And those were questions of mine as well. So, but the question I had was two things about the tax. Are we going to mandate that the platforms attribute tax collections to properties, specific properties? My understanding is in some communities, they aggregate them, and so you can't actually prove whether you can't get a report from the platforms as to how much you've paid if you are actually a part of their platform, and you can't get a receipt saying that this was attributed to this license and so on. And then second, are we going to be able to go back and audit maybe the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years where maybe some of this money has gone to the city's collection pot for lodger's tax when it was due to the county? I don't know where that goes, actually.
I can help with the first question. The second question, I defer to the county attorney. The way I read this is that, yes, they would identify individual peoples as well as days that they were renting, and that would be a requirement of the ordinance. So we wouldn't be aggregating, but that's my understanding. I don't know, Jeff, if you agree?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, that is correct. The ordinance as currently stated would require the short-term rental platforms to provide such report. That may come in different forms depending on the platform. So I think there still remains to be seen how that would actually work in practice. But that would be the ordinance requirement. Secondly, on your question regarding auditing that, that would depend on the cooperation of the platforms, I think, as well as the city in that accounting effort. Certainly, this ordinance looks forward in many respects as to collection on behalf of vendors by the short-term rental platforms, but certainly that could be one aspect as well as looking backwards in terms of auditing that piece.
Okay. Commissioner Bustamante? No.
I don't have any real specific questions. I'm understanding that we're just proposing that this move forward for the notifying of the new ordinance.
Title and...
Yeah. Thank you.
So I have one question which did concern me. I kind of wondered what had happened with the county treasurer and the county clerk, and I see here under this proposed ordinance that it was possibly unclear who was going to make the certificate and who was going to collect the money. Is that what happened in October when we passed this rule? And so now we're defining it as that it will be the county treasurer rather than the county clerk that will, and in the past, has the county clerk collected the lodger's occupancy tax?
Madam Chair, my understanding is, yes, the clerk has traditionally had that role. And when in discussion with staff and with both offices, we felt it might be more appropriate to have the treasurer collecting that, because then it's just like a one-stop shop. And this is only for the lodger's tax that we're referring to.
So what about the short-term rental certificate?
That I would defer to Jeff.
Because there seems to be some delay in getting people their licenses or vendors because we don't have a platform for them to get their temporary or their license. So will this help clear it up?
Madam Chair, I think they're two separate issues. So in regards to licenses and registrations, those run through the Treasurer's Office already and through Growth Management. So the as I understand it, growth management's been working with the treasurer's office and the clerk's office as well, but it's more to get the proper wording on these registrations, and I think we're almost there to be able to start issuing them. But the registration and licensing has always gone through growth management and the treasurer. The tax itself, the lodger's tax, had been collected in the past by the clerk's office, and with the increased collections and the fact that it's a tax that it just made sense, and the treasurer's office agreed to go ahead and collect that on behalf of the county.
Okay. So I just, you know, some of us up here have been getting complaints about people not being able to get their license, so I'm just trying to make sure that that's actually moving forward so that people feel like they've gone through this whole process, which seems to be arduous, and hopefully we can make it more streamlined as we go forward. Are there any other questions about this publishing of title and general summary for this ordinance?
To approve item 6A, request for authorization to publish title and general summary of ordinance number 2023, an ordinance repealing and replacing ordinances numbers 1999-10 and 2020-1 and section 7 of ordinance 2022-7.
Second?
Et cetera. Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Hamilton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there under discussion? Is there somebody? Okay, Paul.
I just wanted to make a couple of clarifying statements. Also attached with this item as a red line version of the ordinance and then a clean version, and that's just for the public record. So if folks wanted to look at it, they can compare what the changes before and after were. And lastly, I'd like to really especially thank Lisa Katanik and Jeff for putting this together, helping us get this all together. I'm a fairly newbie on lodger's taxes, but they really helped us navigate it, and it was a pretty big lift. So thank you.
It looks like it, and thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jeff. Absolutely. And thank you, Paul, for learning how this all goes. Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Now, let's go on to 6B, approval and utilize an outside contract for general construction services to complete Romero Park Phase 2 project for a total sum of $2,493,851.52, etc. Hi, Bill. Welcome.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you.
To see this.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to briefly clarify what all has been done for this project. As you stated, Madam Chair, this has been a long time coming. We've done multiple procurements competitively without receiving acceptable bids or bids at all. The procurement code does allow, after 2 attempts of not receiving bids, we could go and negotiate within open market. As it turns out, the contractor that we finally are coming before you with is utilizing his statewide price agreement pricing for materials and labor. And therefore, that's why that is in the caption pursuant to our procurement regulations, that we get Board of County Commissioners approval to utilize that outside existing contract for these services. So that's the procurement end of it. More importantly, the long-awaited project. And of course, it's before you because of the amount of the money of $2,493,000 and $851.52, exclusive of tax. A lot of improvements at the park. I'm not going to get into too much detail other than it's improving the parking, access, ADA, other activities within the park, electrical connections, and sports. But I'll stand for any questions regarding this presentation, and Dan Anderson with Public Works is here to answer any questions you may have specific to the project.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Commissioner Green?
Just as, thank you, Bill. Thank you, folks. This is a long overdue project, and it's been waiting to happen. One of the things that, again, I'll reiterate is the visual needs of community, and a great long 70-page contract is wonderful, but a beautiful picture of what is to come there would be great in the public record to show people what we're voting on. And so if it was possible in future submissions to have the site plan or whatever the sort of annotated plan, so people could say, wow, that's going to look great, or not. And so more informed public. So transparency and clarity if possible. But thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Green.
Over the years, we have seen many different site plans on this project. So it is exciting to see this coming forward. With that, since this is my district, I am going to make a motion to request approval to utilize an outside contract for general construction service to complete Romero Park Phase 2 project.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hanson, a second by Commissioner Green. Although, discussion?
Madam Chair, Bill, do people really still play tetherball? I saw that. I know. I'm concerned. I'm kidding. I've got to pull back on that one, but I do need some confirmation. Do we really still play tetherball? I thought it was replaced by pickleball. Anyway.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, it's there if they would like to start playing it, learning it again.
Thank you.
I know people are very happy to have a pickleball out there. Commissioner Hamilton, you have any? Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Congratulations to the county for moving this forward, and thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6D, which is a resolution requesting a budget increase to various funds in the net amount of $2,378,524 for the department mid-year budget request. Welcome, Yvonne.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, in January of 2023, mid-year budget hearings were held with the departments to review the status of their fiscal year 2023 budgets. The budget adjustment before you includes requests for additional funds for the following summarized purposes: operational needs such as contractual services and travel and training, fixed assets including new requests and shortfalls due to price increases, unanticipated maintenance projects and shortfalls in scheduled maintenance projects, as well as new capital project funding, a request for the reallocation of available funds between projects, and a project contingency funding. And finally, 2 personnel position reclassifications for the RECC and Sheriff's Office, including estimated cost increases. With that, Madam Chair, the departments and I stand for any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Yvonne, is the $2,300,000 consistent with what we're seeing in our income so far this year?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hughes, yes. We have several funding sources. We have the general fund, which is just under $700,000 in additional money for departments. And then we have GRT for the project, for the maintenance projects. The clerk's filing fees fund is covering some of that cost, some of their increase. And then the utilities enterprise fund. So given the different sources of revenue, well, actually cash balances. So all of these are prior year revenues that were not spent versus current year revenue.
Okay, so we're using our cash balances from prior years. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's my question.
Okay, any other questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve Resolution 2023, items 6D, resolution regarding requesting a budget increase to various funds from the net amount of $2,378,524 for departments' mid-year budget requests.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Hughes. Any other under discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, and thank you very much, Yvonne. Next, we will go on to 7A, update on implementation of Amet settlement, including construction of the Pewaukee Basin Regional Water System.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
may I
have a need-
insert a resolution number first?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Item 6D is resolution number 2023-026.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Michelle.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, hello. Thank you for having me today. Do I have to keep this pushed? Like I have to hold down?
No.
No, okay. So I am doing this update today on the Pewaukee Basin Regional Water System because on Thursday, there is a public meeting in Pewaukee that is being held by Representative Andrea Romero. And I hope that you all have seen that invitation, and if you'd like to attend, that would be great. It is going to snow on Thursday, so we may not have this meeting. I just wanted to put that out there, that we are aware of the weather. We're going to have a call tomorrow to determine whether or not it looks like we're going to have the meeting, because she does not want to have it if the speakers are not comfortable showing up. And the BOR is coming from Albuquerque, and so she's taking that into account with respect to planning in the weather, and so don't be surprised if it is postponed for another few weeks or a month. That being said, what I'm going to show you today is not the exact presentation I'm giving on Thursday. It is expanded a little bit so that I can show you some of what the other entities who are going to talk, which are the Bureau of Reclamation and the Office of the State Engineer. I just have a slide or two for you so that you understand that I'm in the county is speaking in between the other two entities about the kind of giving the public an update for each of the entities. And so my first slide is, okay. So this is the information slide regarding where, when, who, and basically it's just 5:30 to 7:30, BOR, Santa Fe County, and OSE with the representative as the moderator. So this is a photograph. Several of you have been out there, but this is a photograph of the place in the river where the intake structure is for the new water plant. And it's a picture that I took from the Bureau of Reclamation's website, and it's just an excellent sort of bird's eye view of where the construction is taking place. Here are two updated photographs of just some construction photographs that I got from the Bureau of Reclamation, showing some of the progress and the buildings being put up and some of the soil nail walls and things like that, just for those of you who haven't been out there, just to be able to see that. So this is the first slide that isn't an informational slide that shows you and the public where the system is, where it's going, where it's going to be. I mean, currently we are in the green. the Phase 1, San Ildefonso, El Rancho, Jacona, and Pewaukee. That is Phase 1. There's some confusing parts about Phase 1 in that Phase 3 is also being planned at the same time as Phase 1. It got too confusing putting that up on this slide, so I just, keeping it simple, Phase 1 is where the green is, where we are in Sanai and the surrounding communities, where the intake structure is, where the treatment structures will be with the treatment plant building, and those activities should go on for the next few years. Gave us a little bit of buffer there, 2022 to 2026. Phase 2 is what's in purple below and off to the east in Nambe, where the water system will come next in Phase 2. This is where we're planning on putting the rest of the infrastructure. So this is the Phase 1 green area that was in the last slide, enlarged, and shown here in red are the easements that the BOR has identified in Phase 1 that the county is helping the Bureau of Reclamation attain. It is really the Bureau of Reclamation's, it's part of their purview to get these easements, but they know that because the county is kind of boots on the ground out here, we understand the lay of the land better. So this is part of our in-kind contribution to the system that the county is responsible for. And there are 33, and you can't really see them, but they're where the red areas are on the main, where the main large transmission distribution lines will be. So in red, right now, we are working with BOR, we're meeting with them weekly, we have a consultant, a right-of-way consultant, who is helping us figure out these easements, and it's wildly complicated. It really is. It's taken us a couple of months to really get to the point where the right-of-way consultant is able to give very direct instructions to BOR as to what they need in order to really be able to do this easement acquisition. So it's an ongoing process. We just received the next, what they call package of easements from the BOR that we then pass on to our consultant. We meet with BOR and the consultant about them and then kind of work through the details of them. We have done that for these easements that are on this slide. We have just this week received the next package, so we will be working with BOR on that package coming up in the next, several months. So, and I think that these are the only two slides I'm really going to have. After I speak, the Office of the State Engineer will give a presentation, which we saw yesterday, and it's very long, just so you know. It's probably at least a half an hour long regarding metering requirements, how they're working to try and get compliance with meters in the basin, and then kind of what their water master is doing to, with respect to the settlement and how they're making sure that they're able to figure out all the moving parts under their purview, and some of the sharing agreements that go along with the wells. And so the OSC presentation will be right after mine, and then they'll take questions, and I'm thinking the questions will go at least an hour. So it's 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes with presentations, and then questions by the public. And so then I'll have a slide with my contact information on it, and then I'll take questions. But our purview with respect to the easements is extremely specific, so I don't really want to stray at all from that and just talk about what we're doing with respect to getting these easements. People are going to start seeing us. We're going to be knocking on doors. We're going to be talking to people, and so we want to give them a heads up about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there questions from the board? Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for attending and helping coordinate with Representative Romero. Our districts pretty much dovetail over each other, and so a lot of the questions she has are the questions that our constituents have as well, so that's great. Thank you. I have a couple questions in regards to coordination that may not be presented on Thursday, but are more of questions for coordinating the DIG. And we have a DIG Once policy here, and while the Amet settlement does not take into consideration other utilities, are we going to start coordinating with ReadyNet or other broadband providers in an effort to solve two problems with one solution, DIG Once?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, that is definitely something that I will bring up in the next meeting with BOR. I think it needs to be a collaborative kind of thing, and I don't want to say anything about the Bureau of Reclamation per se, but it is the kind of thing I think they'd have to hear several times before they could really think about helping us out with that. So I will start to talk about that with them. And I know you did at the meeting that we had there at the construction trailer. And so it's good. You planted the seed. I will continue to try and nurture that as much as I possibly can. I agree with you. It's important.
Okay, thank you. And if we could not only like put it in their brain, but like ask for a specific meetup with the folks from ReadyNet, and maybe have our Public Works folks sit in on it and to show how we're collaborating, and we're not just giving it to them because they won't do it. It's not their mission. But once we've got a trench built, especially because this water system is a voluntary hookup, and if we can have more value added to have people hook up to it, such as broadband potentially, I get a lot of requests for broadband up in that area. So let's try to do it and get ahead of it as much as possible, so we can source money and be ready for it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? I just, one edit note on the background on the agenda item. It says for meeting on March 4th, but I believe it's meant to say March 2nd.
Oh, 2nd, yes.
So just if people see that, if they see March 4th, it's actually March 2nd. And hopefully the weather will hold, and we'll have this meeting, at least I hope so, because I think it's been a long time coming, and I know that many people are extremely interested in what is happening.
And last little point, I don't know if we have to, if anybody else is planning on going, but if we get to the 3, we should probably be noticing this as a possible meeting. I don't know if I'm going to be there myself, so
It is a public meeting, so I would assume that it is noticed, but I was hoping I would be able to go.
Thank you, Commissioner, Madam Chair. We'll notice the possibility of a quorum being present, though we would, counsel against, 3 commissioners discussing public business at the meeting. So we will notice so that the public knows of that potential quorum, but again, it won't be advertised as a meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Thank you, Michelle Hunter, the Public Works Department. Thank you very much for your work on this.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we will go on to matters of public concern. Daniel, I see I have 2 people here.
Madam Chair, we have William Mee attending virtually. He'd like to speak during public comment.
Okay. William, are you there?
Madam Chair Hansen and Commissioners, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you hear me? Okay. Thank you for approval of our San Ysidro Bridge and our Romero Park. That's a pleasant surprise to come to a meeting. But La Junta del Alamo is a historic alternative route to the El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, and it goes from Agua Fria to a place in La Cienega by Commissioner Bustamante's house. That all said, it's with great sadness and shock that I report an incident on Saturday, the 25th, whereby a resident, Mr. S., was checking his mail on La Junta del Alamo, and they stepped out of his car to open the mailbox, and a woman jumped into the seat of his car in an attempt to hijack it. And then she ran over Mr. S. and assaulted his partner who was in the car. The sheriff's office arrested the hijacker shortly after, but this is not the first incident here at the 2500-A Lopez Lane lot. And it's been on the radar of the sheriff's department. For instance, there's been 3 stolen cars there found last month. And in 2022, there were 3 overdoses, and the sheriff's office has been consistently arresting people for outstanding warrants and that type of thing. But so what Agua Fria Village wants is the district court enforcement of Ordinance 2009-11, the public nuisance property ordinance, so that the sheriff's office can be supported in their efforts to reduce crime at that location. And thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak about this and get it on the public record. It's kind of shocking to us. I mean, we've seen a lot of different incidences, and I've been talking to some of the neighbors, and they're just really, at a loss at what to do. So if the county can help us with that, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mee. Yes, I have spent the morning dealing with this, speaking with our district attorney and speaking with the sheriff. This is a very serious concern that is happening in Agua Fria Village in District 2, and it is way beyond what anybody should have to endure. The gentleman who was attacked is still in the hospital. And this piece of property is a consistent place where the sheriff spends way too much time in having to deal with these problems. So I think we need to do some code enforcement, and I don't want any of the code enforcement to go out there without sheriff assistance, because I think it's way too dangerous. And I really, I don't know if the next step is going to the Attorney General, because possibly this might include drug smuggling from other areas, because this is a constant place of drugs being sold every night, every day, and that it has to be being brought in from somewhere. So it is very concerning to me, and I really appreciate William bringing this forward so that it can be talked about publicly, because this is an extremely serious issue. And Sheriff, if you would like to say anything, I would. The mic's not on. There.
Madam Chair and Commission, thank you. I share the concern that Mr. Mees brought to the Commission, and I know that Commissioner Hansen in her district has dealt with a lot of the complaints that have come out of this area. This property is an old tow yard, which is now a defunct business. It's not, I don't think it's zoned anymore for vehicle storage. The part of the issue is that the property owner is not very receptive to the issues that are happening. on the property. And I know there's other properties within Santa Fe County that there have been issues, and some in Commissioner Hughes' district, where we have constant issues with certain residents where the property owners are not present, may live in another state or just not very present and very concerned about what's going on at the property. We have made several arrests on that property in the Agua Fria district, including stolen cars. There's been several drug-related incidents there, overdoses, drug arrests, this recent incident in reference to the aggravated assault and the taking of the stolen vehicle. This is another property that is in close proximity to the property there on Lopez Lane. And so they're going back and forth. And so we've been doing our due diligence as the sheriff's office to get out there, and our patrol officers and our detectives are very aware of the situation that's happening out there, and we've made over a handful of arrests. Unfortunately, these individuals may not meet the criteria to stay in jail until their court hearings, and so they are released. But it appears that there's a lot of criminal activity that's happening between these two properties. I'm not sure exactly what needs to be done. I think we should explore code enforcement issues, and I'm not sure that the county has the authority for condemnation of property, but maybe that's something that we can explore and focus on. But it would help us. I did talk to the district attorneys, the district attorney herself this morning, and she, I know she had a conversation with Commissioner Hansen in reference to the issues that were happening out there. We are now compiling a list of those arrests and the individuals that were charged in this specific vicinity, in the hopes that the district attorney can at least pursue aggressive prosecution of those cases, and I'm hoping that can solve the problem. We are exploring the option of charging or holding the property owner responsible, because apparently the property owner claims that she has no idea of what's happening out on the property, and that's I feel is an excuse as a property owner. But those are some of the things that we're doing, and anything that the county can do in code enforcement and exploring other options or ordinances that can be enforced on this property would absolutely help in the effort of making sure that that neighborhood and the village remain safe. Thank you. I'll stand for any more questions.
Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there, I don't know if this is for our attorneys or our policymakers, but is there like a model ordinance and law that says, like, you know, when this sort of behavior becomes perpetuated on a property, that the property can be cited, you know, or the owner can be cited, even if they're remote and they claim they don't know about it? Their ignorance and their negligence is not necessarily an excuse in this. And, you know, does that suddenly put a lien on the property? Is there something that can like start to trigger something, you know, whether it's, you know, when it's two people, it's a conspiracy. When it's a repetitive thing, it's like, you know, at a certain location, it sort of becomes, you know, people know that that's the place to do it. And if we can't enforce it, it perpetuates itself. So I'm wondering if this is just out loud, if there's something that we can look at, and if there's a model ordinance somewhere else. We don't have to invent the wheel, but we can probably find a successful ordinance somewhere else that would enable you to be able to enforce things a little stricter on these sorts of properties.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, I agree. There may be model ordinances. I know Albuquerque and Bernalillo County may have some ordinances in reference to some issues that they've had with specific properties, but I'm not, I guess, well-versed in the ordinance that Santa Fe County has and whether or not there is an ordinance that would address that specific situation. But we will look at possibly holding the property owner in a criminal aspect if there's a statute that fits. We would definitely explore that option of charging the landowner, but again, it may be an ordinance that we may need to fall back on in order to get some better results.
Commissioner Green. Commissioner Hughes.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to really briefly state, as Sheriff Mendoza mentioned, there's a similar house in District 5 that's been causing problems for a couple of years. So Olivia and I have been researching possible ordinances, and one of the things I'd like to work on this year is, because we don't have, in that case, we didn't have the authority to just go in and take over the house and kick the people out who were causing all the problems. But I think, as Sheriff mentioned, there is an ordinance in Bernalillo County that we could adopt for Santa Fe County. It would be a bit of work, but if we're going to continue having these problems, we probably need to move in that direction. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It is an extremely serious issue, and I appreciate the commission taking this moment in time to talk about this because this has been going on for as long as I have been a commissioner, and we have consistently tried to address this, but when somebody is put in the hospital and attempted to be run over and possibly killed, it's incredibly serious and something that we need to work on. So thank you, Sheriff, very much for being here. I'm extremely grateful.
Thank you.
I believe we do have another person who wants to make a comment from the public.
Madam Chair, Christina Nixon pre-registered on our online comment form to speak during public comment, but she does not appear to be online.
Okay, thank you so much. So is there anybody else in the audience who would wish to speak from matters of public concern? Seeing none, I will close that, and I will go on to matters from the county manager. Item A, miscellaneous and COVID-19 updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The only real COVID-related update that I have at this time is the fact that there is an ongoing COVID-19 and flu vaccine event organized by our Office of Emergency Management. It is, again, currently underway and will continue until 7 p.m. at the Agua Fria Fire Station. With regard to miscellaneous updates, I did want to see if we could steal some more of your time relative to some special meetings and events. In particular, as I mentioned during the Housing Authority Board meeting, we would respectfully request a short special meeting next Wednesday, the 8th of March, for us to present to you our proposed congressionally directed spending request so that we can ensure that what we're proposing is in line with the board's desires relative to those potential funding opportunities. If you could, let us know if you might be available in the afternoon. We would promise to do our level best to keep it very short. I'm sorry?
March 8th.
Which is next Wednesday?
Yes. So I could do 2 o'clock. 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Does that work for everyone else?
Yes, I could do anything from 2 o'clock on.
Okay.
Yes, 2 o'clock works for me.
Yes, ma'am, 2 o'clock.
Should be fine.
Okay, so 2 p.m. on March 8th.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. And then it is that time of year for the board's annual site visit and inspection of the Santa Fe County Adult Detention Facility. We're looking at potential dates at the end of March or early or the first half of April. Specifically, all the dates we're going to propose would be at 9 a.m. and we're looking at Thursday, March 30th, Friday, March 31st, or Friday, April 7th, or Friday, April 14th at 9 a.m. And again, we only need one date, but this would be for an annual site visit and inspection of the adult detention facility. As we did last year, we would propose to have a presentation that would be open to the public here in Chambers before the county commissioners departed for the visit and inspection.
Okay, so I did not get those dates at all.
Oh, I did.
It's all at 9 a.m., and they're Thursday, March 30th, Friday, March 31st, Friday, April 7th, or Friday, April 14th. So I proposed 4 potential dates, all of them at 9 a.m.
How long does this take? Sorry?
It takes a good 3-4
I would
hours.
plan on 4 hours all in.
Great, thanks.
I can do any day, I would have a conflict for, which I could miss if that's the only date everybody else can do. But the only conflict I have is the 31st.
Okay.
It's just a staff meeting, so it's
Madam
not
Chair,
that big a deal.
and I have a conflict on the 30th. Otherwise, I'm open for any other date.
Okay, so then we have April 7th, is that correct?
And the RTD board meeting is the morning of April 7th,
Okay, then we have April 14th, is that what the next date?
and that's open for me.
It looks open for me also. How about
Yeah.
April 14th?
Yeah, that's fine. But if there's any reason that's too late,
I don't think,
No,
In
that
the-
will be timely. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair and Commissioners.
okay, so we have so April 14th, from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m.
Thank you.
And you'll send out an invite on that?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have that. Okay, next.
That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go on to welcome Hachi. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Hachi Miller, Santa Fe County Intergovernmental Coordinator. And just a moment, and I can pass out your handouts.
Oh, before we start, Hachi, I wanted to ask the county manager a few things. Who replaces the magistrate judge?
I believe that vacancies in the office of magistrate court are filled by the governor, if I'm not mistaken. But we can confirm that before meeting end, but that's my understanding.
Okay, that's what was my understanding also, but the district attorney did call me and asked me that this morning. So I wanted to make sure we clarified that. Since I had her on the phone, we talked about a couple other things. Okay, thank you, Hachi.
Madam Chair, the first item I was going to go over is this item here, which is provided on board docs, and it's a 23-page report, and it's going over the various legislation which corresponds to resolutions which are already in place for the county. And same information as I usually start with. Tomorrow will be the 1st, and the session ends on the 18th, so it's technically 17 and 1/2 days left since they adjourn at noon on a Saturday, the 18th. So we're in the home stretch, I would say. So far, there have been 3 bills signed into law from the governor. House Bill 1, the budget for the operation of the legislative session. Senate Bill 6, which is the interest fee loans for those affected by the wildfires last summer. Senate Bill 364, which is a bill allowing state legislators to appear before state agencies to assist individuals or persons that need that expertise presenting whatever item it may be before a state agency. overall, it looks like we got 1,089 bills introduced so far. So it's about the average number for a 60-day. And as far as the capital outlay, as I presented last time, it was delayed, and it still is delayed. It was announced on the Senate floor yesterday that they finally received the information from the governor's office for her capital outlay request. So they were verifying any duplications that might exist between individual legislators and the governor's office. So looking forward to a capital outlay bill coming out sometime this week, and we can see what items are going to be funded by the legislators and also the governor's office. So don't have an update on that, but I will make sure to provide that information to you once it's released there at the Capitol, so that you can take a look and see what projects within your districts are funded and at what funding levels they are provided at. On the following pages are the particular bills related to the individual resolutions. So I wasn't going to spend much time on that because we have particular legislation that that are not included in any of the resolutions that are in place. So I wanted to present those items and get direction on those particular bills. So everything that's here in green is indicating that that particular piece of legislation has been moving forward. And right here on the first resolution item, page 3, I just wanted to state that House Bill 432 is currently scheduled for House Consumer and Public Affairs this afternoon. So Commissioner Hughes, I'll make sure and give you an update as to the result. I think if I hurry up, I'll get to see the result. So if there's any particular bill within the listing here on the following pages that you want me to provide you an update on as to how the bill may have changed from amendments or substitutions through its committee journey, I'll make sure and provide that to you. You can let me know here, or you can have your liaison or yourself email me, and I will make sure and give you an update on any or all of the particular pieces of legislation listed here. So what I handed out are 2 separate sheets. The first item is titled Legislation Identified for Potential Formal Position Consideration. And I have these broken down into 3 categories. And the first item is return to work. And the piece of legislation that we have identified that we're seeking your particular position on is Senate Bill 124. And the staff recommendation is provided there just below the title and sponsor. And what we have here is what this bill does is looking at helping address the employee shortage that we're facing right now through county governments and statewide as well. And what this is looking to do is have those people that are already retired through the PERA system be eligible to return to work for a period of it's 2 years. And they would still be contributing back into the PERA system if they return to work at a government agency So they would be eligible to collect their retirement, but at the same time, they would be paying in to the system as well. And so we thought that this may not be the long-term solution, but it is a solution that is viable and that it would be encouraged for the state legislature to take this action currently. So I don't know, Manager Schaefer, did we want to get the direction as we go through each bill, or did you want me to present each of the items?
I think that would be at the pleasure of the chair and the board, whether you want to react to this list. Obviously, you don't have to take a formal position for or against any piece of legislation, but these were, as Hachi indicated, items that we felt warranted some consideration, specific consideration on your part. So again, it's at the discretion of the chair and the board whether you want to hear all of the bills before making a decision as to whether or not to take a formal position or do them one at a time.
I think it's probably wise to do them one at a time. So let's do Senate Bill 124, return to work.
Madam Chair?
Sure. Hamilton?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I really think we should support it. Yeah.
Commissioner Bustamante?
I concur.
Okay. Commissioner Hughes?
I guess I'm not sure because I think didn't AFSCME publish an editorial opposing this? And I don't, their concern I think was, I don't know. They had some valid concerns about it. Not that I think it's a bad idea. I just wanted to point that out, that they seem to be concerned that allowing people, because I think this allows people to double dip for a little while. Is that that's
probably
the thing?
That's probably true, but at the same time, they will be also paying into Paro while they're double dipping.
And if you don't mind, like, what is that's a phrase that's been vilified. I'm not sure, like, what the ethical concern about that is. Like, I just don't believe that's a valid concern.
Yeah, I think the concern had more to do with displacing younger workers, which obviously that's not a problem at the moment.
Yeah, right. That's the point. Is, I mean, that would be a valid concern, except for the studies that Manager Schaefer presented from the Association of Counties, that even if we got every single worker in the state of New Mexico actually working, there would be, whatever it was,
37,000
open jobs, so there's just no competition.
Yeah, so I would suppose putting a time limit on it should address that concern.
Well, it has a time limit.
That's what I mean, it has a time limit, so.
Yeah.
So
No.
I'm fine supporting it. I just
Okay.
wanted to mention that because
Commissioner Green?
Thank you. And in general, I would say I'm in support of this, given the crisis in hiring right now. But I've had friends that worked at the state who used to jokingly say, who has to die around here to get a promotion? So sometimes this could make it where there isn't the upward mobility. And so now I think having a timeline on it, but also maybe having a secondarily, if vacancies get to less than 10%, that maybe that there would also be a trigger to say we've achieved our thing. But I can't imagine that this is going to last that long, and that there's going to be a lot of young people flooding the state.
It's 2 years.
It's 2 years, so it's probably fine for now. So
yes, is what I'm hearing from the commission. So we can go on to the next one. Public Works Project contributions, is that your next one, Hachi?
So the next bill that we have for your consideration for support or opposition for is House Bill 46, Public Works Project Contributions, Apprentice and Training Programs. And this was took further review, and I provided this to our Public Works Department for further examination. And what this does is, what's in place right now is that there is this requirement to the Apprentice and Training Fund, but there's certain public works projects which are excluded in law, and this change, House Bill 46, would eliminate the exclusions for certain projects. And those projects include street, highway, bridge, road, utility, or maintenance contracts. So any public project that fits under those categories would now have to start providing a contribution to the Apprentice and Training Fund. And what that ultimately creates is a added project cost for anyone who is funding that public project. So whether it be the state or local governments, they would have to start making a contractor pay into that Apprentice and Training Fund. And thereby, if their cost goes up and they have to pay into that fund now, then they would pass that. It's conceivable that they would pass that price increase on to those fitting the bill, the government's fitting the bill, so either the state or the local entities who are undergoing those projects right now. So in our recommendation here on page 2, what it says is that we encourage the legislature to meet the goal of the expanded apprentice and training programs by using one-time state money to fund the expansion. So rather than allowing this particular bill to take effect, since the state is currently flush with money, they might be able to just fit the bill themselves right now, fund the program right now, where they could provide the services to the apprentices and training program and not pass on the bill to the governments who are paying for the public projects. So in our opinion, through review of this particular piece of legislation, we would recommend an opposition to this.
Commissioner Hughes.
It makes sense to me to oppose this.
I agree. I also agree with the idea of a hold harmless sort of incentive. If this is something that the legislature thinks is such a great idea and they're flush with money, maybe they should fund it, and therefore we could be in support of it. But just as it stands, it does not seem supportable.
I agree.
Madam Chair, Mr. Miller, I agree as well. I think these are really important things to fund apprenticeships. The government stepping in and doing it for them, requiring the employers to do that is one thing. The employers establishing those mechanisms on their own might actually maybe even allow them to be more inspired to do so if the government were to provide the one-time fund. We're flush right now with the money. Let's show them the value of having apprenticeships, but requiring it, it's sort of the antithesis of their own will to grow their own operation. So I completely agree and think it's very important to have these programs, but not to be forced for compensation from the contractors or whomever's the employers.
Okay, I think you got your direction there.
Thank you.
Next.
The next one is film production tax credits, and the particular bill in question that we have here is Senate Bill 12 from Senator Rodriguez. And the particular change that they're making to the film production tax credit relates to a particular item within this change, and that is incentivizing film production from outside the Bernalillo and Santa Fe County areas. So it would be what the incentive is that you get between a 5 to 10% incentive in addition to the already established rebate if you're outside a 60-mile radius from the county borders itself. So effectively, if you're getting a bigger rebate from 60 miles outside of Santa Fe County or Bernalillo County, your cost of production is cheaper. So it would make sense that a film production has a cheaper price outside those areas. It is more likely that they would go outside those areas to film their larger film productions. And so for that reason, we were looking at that this particular bill and the way that it is crafted currently in its form, in its current state, is that we would look at opposition to this particular change in the film tax credit.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Hutch. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all in support of the film industry growing, as we've talked about up here, and pursuing this, but this bill is pretty terrible, both for Santa Fe County in general, but I want to very specifically bring up a point to my fellow commissioners, that the film tax credit appears to be one of the most unjust rules in New Mexico right now, where they're giving 30 to 40% tax rebates to films for being shot on state land, on fee simple land, and penalizing all of the pueblos and tribes in the state. So one of the issues that I think that we should be advocating for, because 3 of the pueblos in our county have shown an interest, and Tesuque was one of the first to create a tribally owned film facility, is asking for equity and justice in the film in SB 12 that allows for the pueblos to partake, and the tribes, the Navajo Nation as well, to partake in the film tax rebate, and finding the appropriate language to change the bill in a way that we could advocate on behalf of our pueblos.
I don't see any issue with that, but do the pueblos get any other rebates at all?
No, ma'am.
There are no tax incentives or?
There's,
okay,
they've been cut out of the film bills at this point.
Yeah, okay. It seems, I don't know if there's enough time in this legislative session, but in the future, I think that's an important thing to look at. Commissioner Hamilton.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the information. I have no idea what the time frame would be, but for this specific request, I agree with opposing this for the reasons stated.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm going to go along with my fellow commissioners, as I find this, I'd have to study this for a long time to really understand what's going on.
So if I may for a second, one of the interesting parts of this is that this is the champion of this bill is Senator Rodriguez, our very own. And so this is literally bad for us, bad for our tribes. It is like it's a potentially good film bill, except for how it cuts out Santa Fe County and the tribes. And Santa Fe County is just a 5 or 10% penalty. This is really, everybody at the Roundhouse is currently calling this the Las Cruces bill. And the fact that the tribes are cut out 100% statewide. And I think we need to sit with Senator Rodriguez and just reiterate this, that this is bad for Santa Fe County, and she's our rep, and she needs to understand very specifically this 5 or 10% penalty for us, and as well as the 30 to 40% penalty for tribal films. So pure opposition is one thing, but actually advocating and saying this is ridiculous, you're our rep, so.
I don't have any opposition to speaking with her about this. I think, we're looking out for Santa Fe County. And we have 3 tribes in Santa Fe County that are interested in film. So,
and to be clear, if I could, Madam Chair, we weren't suggesting we'd oppose the whole bill. I think there are things in it that the film industry supports, such as raising the cap relative to payouts of the refundable tax credit. But that one particular provision, which again further incentivizes productions outside of Santa Fe and Bernalillo County, we want to be able to take a position against. And the other issue that we wanted to highlight is that there is a provision in the bill that creates a film and media fund, but limits its use to so-called film academies. And the concern that has been raised by several entities is that it doesn't allow for funding from that fund for other institutions of higher education that also have very worthwhile film programs. And so that would be another aspect of the bill, again, not opposed in total, but an aspect of the bill that we wanted to bring to your attention and get direction that we could lobby to have that change so as to free up the use of that fund for other institutions of higher education.
Madam Chair, I just want to say that would be important, particularly because the Santa Fe Community College has been a benefactor in the early days of the film programs and programming, and we don't want them to be left out of any potential sources of funds that would, again, continue to allow us to do more films in Santa Fe County. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bustamante. Okay, so you have direction on that. On the second page that you handed out, we have legislation of interest.
Yes, Madam Chair. These are particular items that we aren't looking for a particular position on currently, but should you want to provide one, that is your will to do so. But they are very important, and they would be impactful to Santa Fe County, so we did want to bring them to your attention. We have 4 different categories within this particular handout that I provided you. The first one is GRT distribution to counties, and there's 2 bills here, Senate Bill 514 and House Bill 440. And in review of these particular bills, they are very similar in the what they are trying to accomplish. On face value, it looks like it's a good idea because they're taking away a particular percentage of overall state GRT and just putting that into a fund and then providing that to counties and municipalities, because all that GRT goes to the state, and they're just looking to provide a fund to provide additional resources to local governments. But what this relates to is House Bill 367. And in this particular piece of legislation, what House Bill 367 is trying to do is eliminate the pyramiding taxing that occurs for small businesses. So within that, they would eliminate the tax on particular professional services, such as legal services, payroll services, and some HR services. And that would eliminate a lot of GRT that is collected by both the city and the county here in Santa Fe. And from some preliminary calculations, the distribution provided by Senate Bill 514 and House Bill 440 aren't enough to make the city and the county whole again from the lack of the elimination of the pyramiding. So we're looking more towards some sort of fix that would provide that continuous revenue stream to localities if such the elimination was provided in House Bill 367. So these will go through some changes as they go forward. Both House Bill 367 And these particular bills, as everything tax-related, gets ultimately condensed into a tax package. But we just wanted to make you aware that this was one of the items which is trying to, I guess, dampen or lessen the impact that would be created from the elimination of pyramiding. On page 2 of this particular handout, there are 2 bills here which are very concerning, and they relate to allowing additional housing. And ultimately, what they are allowing with passage of these 2 bills, House Bill 425 and Senate Bill 333, is that if you have a single-family zoning lot and you have a house on it, then you would be allowed to build on that an additional 1,000 square foot single-family residential housing unit on that lot, and it doesn't exclude any size. And so that just raises a lot of concerns regarding a lot of different items. Water usage, electricity usage, sewer usage, parking usage, just the overall density within a community. The one advantageous thing of this is that if there was more building created within a particular local governing area, it would raise property taxes because you would have more places to tax. But there are a lot of issues still related to this, and we're just bringing this to your attention. Neither one of these bills has made it to its first committee hearing. House Bill 425 has been scheduled twice, on Friday and also again today, but these may be reworked and trying to fit more specific geographical locations within the state. But just the way that they're written now is that they're very problematic in the way that they would affect our own Santa Fe County SLDC.
And I have gotten numerous letters from my constituents opposing this 425. Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes, I just feel compelled to point out that there are multiple sides to this. So in Santa Fe County, there is a lot of concern about increased housing density, and zoning very much, followed that. And there are valid concerns about water, but on the other hand, we have a tremendous problem with lack of housing. And we're not talking about building housing to invite new people in. The very fact that we have people who need housing, they're here using water, living and whatnot, there's not enough housing for them. And so the other side of it is that this is actually one of the most effective ways nationwide to increase housing. I've been on a commissioner for obviously a little over 6 years. Getting more housing is one of the hardest nuts to crack. And so on the one hand, we don't want to upset our constituents who want, only big properties and big houses. And I'm not saying that cynically, and I'm not actually slighting anybody. I actually don't think something like this would cause infill everywhere. I recognize it would make our land use department and make everybody's head explode. And I respect that too, because of how hard everybody worked on the SLDC. But there's more than one side to this, and I think dismissing it out of hand is inappropriate. I think it has some merit.
Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you. I think Commissioner Hamilton brought up some of the exact issues that, make this bill One of the co-sponsors is our own Rena Shapansky, and I'm sure she did this for, you know, the best of motives to try and increase affordable housing. And I did send her an email expressing some of my concerns, because there are places in Santa Fe County where there really isn't enough water to, you know, double the housing. And also the way the bill is written, there are no exceptions hardly. And so theoretically, someone who lived in a townhouse in Rancho Viejo could convert their garage into a whole other dwelling unit and rent it out to a family. And where would everybody park? You know, I mean, it has some potential for doing good. And the analysis showed some examples of other communities that have passed laws like this, but they always have, you know, more exceptions for, okay, you can't, you know, the lot has to be a certain size, it has to have enough room to actually build an additional dwelling unit, and it has to have water and things like that. So I think it's another opportunity for us to work with Representative Shapansky, you know, over the interim, if she wants to pursue this to make it into something that would be good.
Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Reiterating what the two previous commissioners have said, I also want to say that I'm a big advocate for the additional dwelling unit. In the world full of NIMBYs, YIMBY is the solution, and nobody gets to tell you what to do except you on your own property. So lead by example and build a guest unit and rent it to somebody that's worthy. And working for our community is the best solution that we can all do ourselves. However, this bill is something that sort of takes a lot of our rights and our regulations out of the way, and it's much more complicated than this one-size-fits-all. So while I think that we should work on trying to lead by example for our own county with our own SLDC and how we can make it easier for ADUs, whether it's for water use or parking use or other requirements here, this is probably not the best bill going forward right now. So I look forward to working with you all on our own solution for this and not having something shoved down our throats. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that is, the city has already allowed people in the city of Santa Fe to build an additional dwelling unit on their property if they wish, or two. So I think that this is more of a neighborhood or a city, county issue that, you know, we should consult our homeowners associations. The homeowners association that is the most opposed for me is my Las Campanas constituents, but they also have very severe water restrictions. You know, so I don't know if they could build another house on their property because it's not allowed. But I think it's clear that we don't have to make any position or take any position here. And we can move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item here on page 3 is salary increases, and this relates to county official salary increases. And this is more just an FYI because this ultimately would relate to the county budget. And if these salary raises were okayed by the legislature, it would still take the inaction of the county commission to okay a salary increase for the particular county official offices. So it would take effect in the next election cycle, so 2024. But it's just an FYI, and Senate Bill 324 has actually passed the Senate today, and it went through unanimously, 38-0, and that's related to assessors and also appraisers in the assessor's office. So these are more just informational that these could be potential budgetary items within the few years to come. And the last item I have here on page 4 is the loud car exhaust. And this was just more of a standalone update for the commission, it was highlighted in a previous meeting that you just wanted to know how this was going and where it stood in the legislature currently. So it has passed its 2 committee assignments so far, and its next stop would be the Senate floor, excuse me. And the way the legislation is written is that it's authorizing Class A counties and municipalities to enact such ordinances related to the loud car exhaust. So the legislature is giving these Class A counties the okay, but it would go down to the individual counties or municipalities themselves to give the okay whether they want to implement and enforce such a regulation. And so with that, those are all the items, particular specific legislative items that I wanted to bring to your attention today.
Okay, thank you, Hachi. I have one item that somebody asked me to bring forward. It's a house memorial. It's introduced by it's House Memorial 36. Representative Sanchez is interested in a memorial to study the distribution of gross receipts tax from Los Alamos County and distributing it to other counties in the surrounding area that are affected by Los Alamos. And I believe it has a hearing on Friday. So I'm asking the board what your positions are on this, and
why you want to? Are you going to speak on it, or is this?
I've been asked to speak on it. I haven't made
Speak
any,
as an individual.
Well, of course,
Yeah.
but I haven't made any decision, and I wanted to know how the board felt about it.
Do you or maybe Hachi have a little bit more information on it? I honestly don't know.
Madam
So,
Chair,
Madam
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I don't have specific information on this house memorial right now.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So in the past, Los Alamos County has taken the majority or all of the gross receipts tax paid, either voluntarily or through direct purchases from Los Alamos National Laboratories and the main other subcontractors and environmental contractors. Some of the work happens in other counties, whether it's Santa Fe County or Rio Arriba County, and in municipalities such as Santa Fe or Espanola in our general area. And now with the moving of a couple thousand jobs into the Santa Fe DOE facilities, Llano facilities on Pacheco Street and on Guadalupe Street, some of those purchases and some of those slightly voluntary, because they're a nonprofit tax compensating arrangements, could be discussed for being given to other jurisdictions and spreading the wealth a little bit. Los Alamos County has voluntarily offered places like Espanola $500,000 to help them with some of their projects that they otherwise wouldn't be able to fund. And they found an alignment with that. This would just make it a study of maybe some equity amongst these things. So it's a study. It's something that it would be a great opportunity for us to understand and participate with the study in the interim, and that maybe next year we would get some traction and understand by then whether 2,000 jobs are stretching our police thin, do we need the support for housing or whatever it is. But if that's 25% or 20% or 15% of the lab's workforce, 10%, wouldn't 10% of their gross receipts tax be nice to be given to our communities?
Especially considering that we have probably more than 10% of their workforce living in Santa Fe County.
Yeah, well, getting information like that, I mean, data is good. Flying blind is not, so that certainly makes sense to me.
Madam Chair, Madam Commissioner, the study is just that, is to study all those things such as where people live, where people shop. They're going to try to get a bunch of research into that so that they could, really present this next year, hopefully, with a more equitable solution. I think we should support it, but it's...
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Green is correct in the fact, I pulled up the House Memorial, and that's exactly what it would be. It would be a study. And what it says is a study looking at equitable regional tax distributions from Los Alamos National Laboratory or similar federal research facilities in New Mexico. Request that the Legislative Finance Committee and the Revenue Stabilization and Tax Policy Committee study the issue in the event no taxation task force is commissioned in 2023. So what the House Memorial is asking is that specific direction from the legislature to look at LANL or other federal research facilities and its impact on the surrounding communities and providing equitable contributions. So it's, like Commissioner Green said, it's the study and the specific direction.
I think it goes along with when I spoke with NNSA, of them saying that they really needed to do more for surrounding communities. This is a way to look at that and actually move it forward. And since it's a study, I think it's valuable to find out what the impacts are in Santa Fe County and what impacts LANL has on us. So, yeah.
And one more point to this is hopefully if this does pass that we really participate in this. This is everything from emergency management and Chief Vigil talking about nuclear waste coming through our community and all of the different aspects, whether it's housing, emergency services. There's a lot of ways that we could actually present and be very forthcoming with our information and the impacts on our county towards this study. And that, so I would hope that this would A, pass, and that B, we would actually put forward a presentation that talks about all of these different aspects that we could put forth to the interim study on this. So thank you.
It sounds like a really good idea.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that forward.
So I feel like if I was in the hearing, or if Commissioner Green was there, we could say that Santa Fe County supports this study. And I think that Representative Sanchez would be grateful for our support since he represents Rio Arriba. The other issue I wanted to bring up, you brought up earlier, Commissioner Hughes, is Senate Bill 398, allowing housing commissioners multiple city jobs. Is that where your, and this is brought by Rodriguez, is this where the housing board is? It says allows a commissioner of a local housing authority to hold office or employment for the same city where the housing authority operates?
Yes, Madam Chair, that is the one I wanted to bring up and get some direction on. And this is, we passed a resolution in support of this. That's a terrible title.
Totally.
For what it is. It goes along with the way, as I mentioned, the municipal housing statute is written to be as confusing as possible, I think. But it's our request to remove the sentence in part of the bill that says a housing commissioner can't hold any other office. In other words, but since that time, as I mentioned, I've been talking to the director of the Eastern Regional Housing Authority, who was around when a lot of the legislation was written, and he pointed out that there is another part of the bill that allows the county commission to basically be the board. Our concern, I think, in that case would be then we can't have our two additional members. My suggestion this morning to staff was that maybe we not pursue this bill, and I have a personal reason for wanting to do that. Senator Rodriguez is going to present this tomorrow, but only if I'm her expert. And I don't feel like I'm an expert at the moment because for one thing, we can't find our own agreement with HUD. So I don't know if if the HUD agreement is with the county, and then therefore we are operating under Section 4, which means the county commission is the board, and we're in violation probably by having 2 additional members, or if our agreement is with a housing authority, which is a separate entity, and then we're in violation for having the commissioners on the board. And given that it's so late in the session and we know it's not going to pass, I guess there's 2 options. One is we can go ahead and present it tomorrow and see what comments we get from the senators, or we could, I'm sure Commissioner Rodriguez would be perfectly happy for me to say, let's wait till next year and study it over the summer. But I can, well, 2 years, or if we get it on the governor's call. I'm happy to go either way, but I'm looking for direction, but I'm just saying that I'm a little uncomfortable being her expert with so much uncertainty and the fact that if they start asking, well, how is Santa Fe County set up? And I don't know the answer.
Commissioner Hamilton.
I guess, I mean, I would totally support you in everything you've said. So my question is, we were trying to get something done quickly to fix what our legal department thought was having us in a little bit of a bind. So what would that do to that situation? I mean,
Well, it might fix it, but it might not.
the bill might fix it, or
Bill might fix it, yes.
But it might not.
And
But
then
it
if
might
so-
not.
Which makes sense to, like, maybe we should just drop this if it doesn't fix it, but then what do we do in the interim till next year or 2 years from now?
County manager.
I think the bill would fix the issue, which
Would or
is,
would not?
it would, because it would remove an impediment to having an independent housing authority on which Board of County Commissioners sit. I don't think there's any doubt about that it would have that effect, and therefore open up possibilities for this board or for the city council or county Board of County Commissioners of any entity subject to the municipal housing law to have greater flexibility in how they structure their operations. I think as a practical matter, notwithstanding the existence of a housing authority board, for all intents and purposes, the housing authority is a division within the county. So I think, we will be able to exist in some form and continue to discharge power under the municipal housing law if the act does not go forward. But I think at some point, there needs to be some clarity brought to this issue in terms of what our exact structure is. So that's a long answer to your question, but in terms of the actual effect of the bill, I don't think there's any doubt, but that it clears up this issue so that, again, county commissioners could in fact serve on the board of a truly independent housing authority, which we currently do not have.
Thank you for the answer, in which case I would strongly recommend that we try to get it passed this year, all these uncertainties notwithstanding, and maybe you can, somehow
Well, I guess,
convince Attorney Young or somebody to go with you and help.
well, that's what I was going to say. If someone could come with me, that might be helpful.
That I'm sympathetic with.
Yeah, I don't know whether Attorney Young wants to sit over there in Senate Health and Public Affairs with me till this. I think it's 4th on the agenda, so it probably will come up tomorrow. And I guess maybe my comfort level is a little bit increased because I can say that certainly our intent has been to have an independent housing authority with commissioners on it, and I think Manager Schaefer's right. This fix would fix that, and so.
How about Jordan? Is he comfortable? Are you comfortable, Jordan, speaking on this? You are our housing director, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. But.
No, Madam Chair, I certainly would be comfortable going. In terms of the specifics of the legalities, that would be information that I have, brought in from the county attorney's office and something I couldn't speak to maybe the degree that the county attorney's office could. But certainly regarding my understanding of the background of the housing authority, why we're making this request, I would certainly feel comfortable speaking in that respect.
So if you're willing to come with me, then I'm fine. I mean, I'm not, part of my worry was that it would pass and then we would find that there was something else we really wanted to fix that's still in there because it's so complicated. But I think the chances of it passing this time are very slim. So I'm not actually, but so there is some value in finding out if there are other concerns that the senators bring up that we aren't aware of. So, okay, we will go tomorrow. I'll see you there at 1:30 or a half hour after the Senate floor session. Thank you.
You get his cell phone.
Yeah, text me your cell phone.
Okay, is there, Haji, I know we've kept you quite a long time. Is there anything else anybody wants to say about these bills?
Madam Chair, I just want to offer my thanks for your direction provided at today's meeting, and also offer my thanks to the staff who has helped me review many bills and its effect on the county. So I just want to offer my appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we can move on to matters from county commissioners. Who would like to go first? Commissioner Hamilton?
No, I actually don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Bustamante?
I don't have anything at this time either.
Commissioner Green?
Just to remind everybody that on March 2nd, we're going to be having the AMIT update with Representative Romero and the Bureau of Reclamation up at Pewaukee High School. This is a great opportunity for folks that didn't hear the presentation today and to get more information from the BOR on Thursday. Drive carefully. The weather is supposed to be a little messy, so if it gets really bad, tune in to find out whether it's been postponed a few weeks to wait for spring. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all up there.
Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you. At least my list is longer than anybody else's, but I'll be very quick. I do want to invite anybody who's interested. Olivia and I were going to meet with Rachel Brown to talk about the condemnation ordinance, which can also be called like a lien and clean, like either you clean it up or we put a big lien on your property and take it away ordinance, which is what Bernalillo County has. Because there is a property in District 5 that has been causing problems as long as yours has. I wanted to mention that the Rancho Viejo has a ladies club, and the ladies club of Rancho Viejo would like a senior center. And so Manager Schaefer and I discussed this and talked about maybe at some point doing a study to see where we might need new senior centers. But the community college district is growing so quickly, it's pretty easy to imagine that we might at some time in the next few years want a senior center there. And they, of course, they look across the desert to El Dorado and see the nice senior center and library that we have over in El Dorado, and they want the same on their side. I'm having a town hall on March 7th, online WebEx. And just a couple announcements. The sewer project that's going to connect Arroyo Hondo through Oshara over to the Quill plant eventually is starting to be laid out, and there's a lot of questions from residents over there. But Olivia and I have been filled in and think we understand what's going on. And finally, the Regional Transit District has restarted bus service to El Dorado, and so I can ride the bus in tomorrow for the hearing at the legislature and hope that it doesn't go so late that I have to get a ride home. But anyway, I encourage everybody who lives in El Dorado, if they're listening, to take the bus when you can. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have a few updates. Laura and I have been working with the EPA and NNSA to set up some town halls. EPA is going to be here at the end of the month to discuss WIP and the tritium release, And NNSA, I believe, is looking at April 6th to be here to have public comment on the issues that they deal with up at Lano. And so more to be said about that when they firm up the dates. But that is all I have at the moment. But I see Michelle is standing there, so she must have something she wants to say.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Green, I wanted to note that the meeting for Amit has been moved to the intermediate school. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that.
It's moved again.
This is
It's
the
only
fourth
been-
time. Are we 100% sure that it's the,
That, in our meeting, in our prep meeting yesterday with BOR, OSE, and the representative, that is what I heard.
and
What's
represent,
the address?
I will get you that.
okay, because it was at the high school. Then
And
it
it's very close to the high school,
Okay.
but it is a
Is it
separate.
right at the intersection?
I think, yeah, one's on one side and one's on the other side.
One's in front, one's in back,
Yeah.
yes, okay. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a dilemma of where it's actually going to take place. Okay, are there any other elected officials? Everybody's up here, the commissioners are done. I'm going to go on to other elected officials' issues, comments. So is there anybody online, Daniel, that wants to speak? And then we have in the office, we have Deputy Clerk. Do you have anything you would like to share?
No, Madam Chair, nothing today.
Okay, Daniel, do we have any elected officials online who would like to speak?
Madam Chair, Treasurer Manzanares is online.
And would she like to speak to us?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission. We have nothing other than we're preparing for a second half property tax collection.
Okay, well, thank you. To remind everyone to pay your property tax when you get your bill on April 10th to May 10th, I believe is the correct dates. If I'm wrong, please correct me, Treasurer Manzanares. Okay, so next is the matters from County Attorney. Mr. Young, would you like to take it away?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I would request that we go into executive session this afternoon to discuss threatened or pending litigation in which Santa Fe County is or may become a participant as allowed by Section 10-15-1H7 and MSA 1978, specifically including breach of settlement agreement and related agreements related to annexation. Don't expect it to be a long session, Madam Chair.
Mr. Young, do we need to, can we adjourn from, no, we don't, it's tabled. Can we adjourn from now, or should we wait until afterwards? Your call.
Madam Chair, I'd really defer to the commissioners on that. We could certainly adjourn now and then read for the record next meeting that we went into executive session, discussed only the matters that were on the agenda, did not take any action. So whatever the pleasure of the board is.
just to be clear, you have no recommended actions for us? It's just a briefing?
Correct. It's just an update, and there's no action on the agenda to come out of that session. Of course, the board, if they felt like there was some action to come on the record, then we could take that. But I'm not anticipating any at this point.
Commissioner Hamilton.
I would suggest we adjourn now, otherwise everybody has to stick around.
Yeah, and I'll thank you for all the informational reports, and Director Snyder, you may leave.
You just got hit in the head with a fairy wand. So, Madam Chair, I would move that we adjourn our general meeting and convene an executive session for the matters Attorney Young mentioned.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hamilton and a second by Commissioner Hughes. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Camila Bustamante,
Yes.
Commissioner Justin Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Hank Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Anna Hamilton,
That's me, yes.
and Chair Anna Hansen.
Yes. We are adjourned and we are in executive session.